Well, guys, I'm really happy to see you. Thank you so much, and welcome to our podcast. Today, my guests, Dioxide, the beautiful rogue right now, level 80 plus, the ultimate pusher, the ultimate demon hunter from Diablo 3, also like the professional super duper player. And we also have here Dav microtransaction. I think you played all games, I have a feeling. YouTuber, streamer, playing Necromancer right now, yeah? Playing dead Necromancer, the Necromancer who died.
Yep, I've lost a couple of them already. I started
Couple
the other
of them.
one. We're 28 right now. The plan was to grind yesterday, but Kitty Cat got hurt last night, and I got stuck 8 hours at the vet. So now today's day number 3. I forget how many days we're in this season now.
Today's the 4th day, I guess. For me, it's the 4th day. So again, because of the time change, for me, it will be day number 4. Oh, but guys, I think just specifically time, we are exactly 72 hours into the season. So 72 hours are over right now. And guys, so I'm really happy that you are here. I invited you today, of course, to talk about Barbie movie that's coming out. How do you feel about this? Who is going on Barbie? Who is going on Oppenheimer? What else are we supposed to discuss here?
That involves leaving the house, so I don't think I'm going to do any of that.
Professional, super, come on, professional gamer. Well, so let me ask you one really, I'm gonna start weird. My stream today crashed 4 times while playing Diablo 4. I am crashing, after the last patch, by the way, I'm crashing constantly. Before that, I was crashing from time to time. I know that a lot of people are also experiencing a lot of freezes, weirdness. For example, my game is freezing. It's freezing my whole PC, and it's freezing the OBS, and it's completely going down. Have you experienced any of this? And also, my ultimate question to you guys, so to you as people who also played a lot of different games, is it okay for season 1 in a brand new game? Is it we are crashing more than normal? Do we have more lags than normal in the industry? Or we are somewhere okay? We're still okay?
Dioxide, you want to go first, and then I'll answer?
Sure. So I actually used to, especially with my internet connection, which is usually not reliable at all, oftentimes I don't even know if I disconnected or if I actually crashed or if it was a memory leak. I'm always trying to figure out what's going on. I actually haven't had any issues in the recent, actually, with any memory leak issues, but I do know that for whatever reason on the US servers have been quite smooth, but the EUs have had a lot of issues in the recent. Again, no idea why that's been going on, but I play with medium settings. I pull everything back, and I play with cross play disabled, and textures on medium, and anti-LSE and just on low, and just as much as I possibly can while I'm streaming, so therefore I don't run into as many of those issues. But I remember on launch, I had them all the time. I think I crashed 7 times on my launch stream, and it was quite embarrassing. I was just but it's what do you do, right? But they did mention, I think Blizzard did talk about them tackling the memory leak thing. It seems like it's a much bigger issue than I guess we can really just comprehend on our end. So it's just one of those things where we just kind of have to wait. It sucks though. It sucks being a streamer and trying to just trying to play the game with your audience, and you can play any other game. You can probably just run Crisis and stream it and do just fine. But for whatever strange reason, D4 it just doesn't want you to play. Yeah, it's crazy.
So as far as the OBS issues go, Anna, there is an issue with Windows 11 and GPU hardware scheduler. So if there's a certain setting, if you haven't disabled it, will cause crashing in particular with this. So I would recommend going, and I actually have a link here.
I'm putting, the notes. Send me the link. Actually, guys, during this time, I checked already so many settings, and disabled this, that, enabled different things. I tried different OBS and it still continues crashing. But this one I will also check, and we'll see how it will go.
It's the hardware GPU scheduler. If you disable that setting in particular, it will stop all OBS issues that you have with encoding issues and overloading.
Cakes. Thank you so much.
But as far as the memory leak issues go, I haven't had that recently. Everything's been going good for me. My previous computer was a pile of dog, so it was absolutely crashing anytime I try to record and stream or do anything. But the new one I have is going pretty good. So far, everything's been going fine. I will say my issues are completely isolated to Google Chrome. For whatever reason, Google Chrome's been having significant amount of issues with whatever compatibility is going on with all this stuff. So I had to switch to Edge, and then that helped the performance significantly.
Thank you so much, guys. You're giving me hope. Big hope that, okay, it will be resolved. I will fix it somehow. And a lot of other streamers also in my chat also saying, yeah, it's crashing. But okay, we will definitely fix it. Guys, we are right now, we figured out, we have 3 days in the game. We're the 3 days in the season. We have world first group softcore player already achieved level 100 already. There are multiple players. We have hardcore also group. We have today our first solo self-found hardcore player also reached level 100. More and more people. Really soon our buddy Echo Hawk gonna reach level 100 on solo self-found necromancer also. Really soon it will happen in a matter of a couple of hours, I believe, guys. But we are talking right now 3 days in the game, and there are a bunch of players, more and more people reaching the maximum level in the game. In comparison, when the game just launched, Rob, it took him, I believe, 40 plus hours to reach in a group, solo self-found in a group, to reach level 100. Right now we are doing it within 3 days, within 2 days, actually, within 2 days we're doing it on softcore. Guys, do you think it's good speed right now? Do you think it's okay? Do you think it should be? Was it a good change to give us so much XP, to give us such a boost in the Nightmare Dungeons, and to make it now so easy to reach level 100?
Yes, in my opinion. I am more of a fan of hitting the max level and then optimizing gear than I am spending 3 months to hit the max level, personally. I know it depends upon what people like. Some people like the experience chase, some people like the gear chase. I feel like in the Diablo games I prefer the gear chase, but that's just my personal preference.
So to be honest, I was actually in that group with Rob. So I was actually the rogue player that leveled with Rob on launch. So I got a chance to play, with them and things. And I think leveling to 100 is actually an experience in itself. And like I look back at it, and I didn't really nothing to Rob or anything like that, but I didn't really enjoy that experience because of like just the strategies necessary to get there. Just feels very cheap in a sense. Cheap and
Completely agree.
And it's like you don't get to enjoy the journey on the way to 100 that the developers intend that you do. And so but of course at the time it's just getting there as fast as possible. And like I think once people are there, content creators, we make all these different content and videos and say, we got these builds and stuff. So we kind of like make the level 100 as if that's the experience, or that's the, that's when the game starts, because that's what we're putting out as content creators. So the perception from the audience is like, oh man, here I am at level 32 and this guy's already 100 and he's got a full build and full Paragon and he's saying this, he's saying that. So we're almost making it seem like 100 is the game, when in reality the journey to 100 is the actual game, right? Like that's what it is. And so I think at the moment the time it takes to get to 100, I think it's actually for the most part where it should be. It's just that I think we kind of put a certain like a certain perception on it as content creators, because for us we almost kind of have to do that, because we can't sit there and put out a video or a guide of whatnot and say, hey, check out this this newest like Twist and Blaze build, full Paragon, full Theory Craft, and we're like level 35. Like, no one's gonna take us seriously on the
Yeah.
video when it's like, man, you're not even there yet. You haven't even played the build. Like, what are you talking about? So there's a pressure on us to kind of like skip the fun part to get there to make the content, but then at the same time we put the perception that the game only starts at 100, and so you kind of have like this disconnect there on both levels. But to be honest with you, if I wasn't a content creator, if I wasn't streaming, I absolutely would just take my time to get to 100. Like, I would just enjoy the journey, go to do a bunch of side quests. I love Helltide. I probably spend the majority of the time there. I'd buy a house there if I could and just go out and just kill things. But it's just I think the journey to 100 is severely like underrated because of the disconnect that I kind of just put there. Sorry for like the long answer, but like I talk to my audience about this all the time, and it's just but yeah, I think it's important. I think the journey to 100 is important, and I think it should take time to get there, and not just like a day or two, and ignore all the tryhards who are trying to get there as fast as we can, because we're not enjoying the experience as much as we should. But yeah.
I completely agree. You're preaching to my heart here, because I mean, look, I feel like most people don't hit 100, and most people are probably having a better time at this game than we are, like grinding our life away trying to get to, okay, I gotta do the builds, gotta do the tips, gotta do the max efficiency and all this stuff. I think the average guy is probably laughing himself into the grave and just having a good time, whereas we're like sweaty, crunching our way all the way through. I completely agree.
That's me, but I'm always, I see those changes, but from a casual perspective, from a casual player, it's amazing, cool, more XP, Nightmare Dungeons now makes sense, you can go there, okay, feels amazing. But I was always wondering, like, hardcore diehards, these part of the community, how do they feel, how do they think about those changes for the Nightmare Dungeons? And guys, how do you think now with those changes, with those with a lot of things, with the patch that is coming also, how do you think till the end of the season, 3 months, how many level 100 characters you're gonna get? You're gonna have
in 3 months?
If you will stop dying.
Man, if I can fix my skill issues, I'm hoping to have one in. I'm going to be honest with you. If I can even get there, your boy's going to be happy. But if it was softcore, I'd say 2 or 3. I kind of pick my way through. To be honest, I don't really do that many build videos. I got like 2 or 3 of them, maybe. I just kind of pick my way through it, cover the news, and try to have fun on stream for the most bit. If I get 2 hardcore 100s, I'm going to feel pretty good. If I get 3, that's more than I think. So I'd say 2 at the high end, 3 if I'm lucky.
Yeah, I'm gonna do rogue basically is my rogue is gonna get there every season. By the way, I'm gonna make a rogue always at the start, no matter what. I'm a class loyalist, and I've always been that way. But eventually, I do plan on branching out and doing druid and sork as well. So I will be getting those 2 characters to level 100. Kind of looking forward to playing the frozen orb sork, despite the situations that they're in right now. But it's going to be pretty fun.
I will try to level... No, I'm right now leveling the druid. If I will stop crushing every hour, I hope I will also bring this druid to level 100. God, it's difficult, but we're going to defeat this. We're going to defeat the crush boss. And hope to play Necromancer. And then I hope to play Rogue. Then we will see. But we will see what the patch will bring. What will be the change. How they're going to buff the Barbarian. How they're going to buff the Sorceress. Guys, if we here started with leveling, pushing to 100 right now, situation is the following. We don't have the leaderboard. But community wanted the leaderboard. That's why we need the race. That's why we needed to do something anyway. That's why we have the race. We need to push to level 100 no matter what. But we were promised that we're gonna have some new activity, some difficult activity, hopefully, in season 3, where there will be the leaderboard. You are a game developer. Imagine you're a game developer. What would you put? What do you think should be in Diablo 4 where we can have the leaderboard, where we can have really challenging content, where everyone would be happy.
You want to go first, or should I? Who's going to take a shot at this one here?
Take a breath. You can think.
You can go first. You can go first.
All right. I think the easy answer is all you got to do is make the Nightmare Dungeon tiers have no end. So it's just everyone can just push, oh, now I can do 101. Okay, well, I did 102. Okay, well, I did 103. Well, I did 104, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's kind of the obvious ones. There's the speedrun aspect of it where you could have whatever the cap is, and then the fastest person can get it done as well. So there's always that possibility. I think there's possibilities for, I like the Pinnacle boss. I mean, personally, I think Uber Lilith is like one of the coolest additions in the game from like an ARPG standpoint. I would like to see other bosses that are incredibly challenging like that, because I think that everyone racing to figure out how to beat that boss, and that was really cool. So as far as leaderboards go, I don't know how you could implement that in a leaderboard. That might be harder for a boss to actually implement a leaderboard, because every boss has got some kind of mechanic that in particular is going to be better for some classes, and that class is just going to dominate the leaderboard, and it's going to be impossible for it to be balanced. But I guess you could say the same thing about Nightmare Dungeons. So that's just is the nature of the game we play. So the easy answer, I think, is you just make Nightmare Dungeons continue to go until people can't do it anymore.
Yeah. So I think it seems like if the original intent was, at some point adding leaderboards to Nightmare Dungeons, because that was like the only content that really scaled considerably high, like harder than your actual character outside of Uber Lilith. I think it's quite difficult to add leaderboards in the way that is going to satisfy the player base on both ends. And I think that's kind of why they've taken their time, really like trying to make sure that they get this right. Because you can look back and Diablo 3 and Greater Rifts and how they did that, and like how fishy it was, and like how the average player base didn't even want to like participate because you had to like farm like thousands, hundreds of thousands of keys to have one shot at one Greater Rift to clear, and like that's not a fun thing that most of the player base really wants to do. So the obvious answer seems to be Nightmare Dungeons, I would assume, but getting that right, I think it's just going to take time, and also making sure that the game is in a good spot too, like where there's not one class that's just like, or two classes that are just severely outperforming the other classes. So them waiting to season 2 or season 3 to introduce leaderboards, I think was a good idea, as much as we kind of hate it, because it's like, oh man, give us something to do, give us something, chase and stuff like that. But I think doing it right is more important than just rushing it out there and just having it out there. Because I mean, imagine if we had leaderboards for like this current season right now, with things being bugged as it is. You're gonna have a leaderboard where it's just like druid, rogue, druid, maybe a necromancer in there, druid, rogue, and it's just like, and everybody's just gonna complain about how these things are just broken, and it's like, well, so it's like you can't really win with that. So I think Blizzard's doing the right thing by just waiting until it's actually that they can do it correctly and right. And if I was in your shoes, I'd probably do the same thing. It's just the right idea.
Also, I don't know if you Echo Hack was sending a message too. I don't know if you see the message in the Discord here.
Yeah, guys. I
Echo.
was. Well, guys, I will tell you, I was inviting also him, but I kind of didn't get an answer from him. I can add him. Right now. If you will give me a moment, if you want.
Yeah.
Were you saying that Echo was ghosting you?
Nah, he's pushing, guys. He is rank 2, world 2 necromancer. He can.
I'm messing.
He can ghost me for as long as he wants. It's totally fine. No. It's totally fine. But yeah, guys, chat. Yeah, we are taking a little break. Guys, say something nice. Now tell us something nice. Dav, if you can you please text Echo and say him? Yeah. We're inviting you in a millisecond.
Yeah, no problem on it.
Yeah, so yeah,
I'll just invite him to the call.
Yeah, invite him to the call.
Yeah, I'm on it. I told him he's just waiting. Everything's cool.
Mm-hmm. Dex. Guys, well, how do you like the season? 3 days in the season. We had no pre-testing before the seasonal actual start. We had no idea. We saw, okay, you saw the hearts, but it's on paper. How do you actually feel about the season right now when you already played it?
I mean, I've played. Sorry, go on. Why don't you go first?
Oh no. Okay, sure. So the thing is that like the devs mentioned that the season 1 was already completed before like launch actually hit, right? So it makes sense that there was no PTR ahead of time, because I mean it would have been difficult to kind of get like a build to happen before the launch date, when the devs were already in crunch time trying to make sure everything actually functioned the way it's supposed to, and the season 1 was already like kind of done behind the scenes. They're working on season 2, and a different team has already started on season 3. They're already like way ahead of schedule in that sense, with things kind of already created. So I can understand why there wasn't a PTR this time around. But of course, in the future, you absolutely need to have a PTR so things just don't catch on fire before a season hits. And it seems like they're going to make massive changes and massive content things. But as far as the season is concerned, I like it. I think it's a pretty cool concept. Let's be honest, they did borrow the concept from Diablo 3 Legendary Gems. Is basically that. It's the two rings and the amulet is practically the like Legendary Gems in Diablo 3, just done in a more intricate way. And they expanded upon it. So it's like, they didn't have to put too much thought into it. It's like, hey, we can just take this, slot it here, make a really cool like storyline behind it, and then really get onto the massive seasons after that. So but I'm having fun with it. Some of the hearts are pretty creative and do allow for some cool things for your builds. So I like it overall.
Yeah, I would probably like it even more if I could make it past level 32 at the moment. I keep dying. So I'll experience the back half of this season at some point, my friends. But for the first bit, let me tell you, the first 10 minutes of this game has been pretty fun.
Hey everyone, how you doing?
Hi.
A wild Echo Hack appears.
There's the boy. What up, Echo?
We have you.
Apologies for mouse and keyboard clicks well in advance. I mean, but I'm going for World 2 on SF Hardcore right now, so
we will try not to distract you too much.
Is it your goal to distract me so that I die?
Yeah, secretly, yeah.
Yeah, so you're talking about the first 10 minutes of gameplay? Is that what we were talking about?
No, I asked the question. Yeah, guys, like right now we have the season's been out for 3 exact days. We haven't tested the hearts before. We haven't tested anything before the actual season launch. How do you like it? How in the end was it? Is it cool? Is it fun?
Yeah, so I have positive and negative takeaways.
Drop it.
Positive takeaway is that the powers seem pretty cool. And that's really hard to design, like cool powers. So they kind of went all out. There's powers for every class, and there's a whole bunch of them. And you can really pick and choose and wild up your build and make it go crazy. So I think that's probably the biggest part that I think is good. There's also like this, like a campaign, which is got a story and cutscenes, and that's really cool. There's actually a story. Normally in like Diablo 3 world, you don't get that, right? So that's pretty wild. And then finally, the last thing that I think is really, really good is the Varshan boss fight. It's really well designed.
Yeah, I actually quite like that fight, to be honest. I only did the first one. I'm assuming there's like a Giga Chad version of it later, but it would look cool.
I'm gonna take a guess, and I could be wrong, okay? And I'm probably wrong. But I do know that there are some folks that used to work on Last Epoch that work at Blizzard for Diablo 4 now. And this boss fight, it's a lot like a couple of boss fights in Last Epoch. It's strangely similar in some ways. And that's a really good thing because Last Epoch has amazing boss fights. Some of the best ARPG boss fights, in my opinion. So those are my good sort of takeaways, like the big high level takeaways. Those things. Okay, the bad. The actual mechanic of fighting the Malignant in the world, where you have to like click on the heart. First of all, like the click target is really small, so I click like 50 times and barely click it.
Agreed.
And then it takes like 20 seconds to spawn the mob again. And then once the mob spawns again, you've killed everything else, so there's no density, and you're fighting one elite mob by itself.
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest, bro. That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, there's two things that I didn't get, which was the caged hearts having this huge delay in the game where it's all about how fast can you go through mobs. It's just like just sit and wait and twiddle your thumbs. And then the dungeon timer thing, it's like the exact same issue I have, which is why are we just slowing everything down? Literally wait at times when there's nothing to do. Like the cage starts, you just sit there and wait, which isn't like a big deal. I know it's a few seconds, like it's whatever. I'm mauling over nothing, but it's just, I just don't understand it. Like I don't get the reason why we have to wait 2 seconds for that, and I don't get the reason why we have to wait 2 seconds longer for the dungeon exit. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it either. I think it would be a lot cooler if like the Malignant guy, you start fighting him, get him to 50% HP, and then that's when it just automatically spawns the next one. And that way it just increases the difficulty of whatever you're fighting. And so if you're fighting like 3 Malignant elites, all of a sudden you're fighting 6, and you can know going into the fight that that's going to happen, right? Like I think you could do something way more interesting instead of just like waiting. And that's it's so bad to the point that I actually just skip them now. I
can I do the same thing too? Yeah, I mean, at a certain point, once you kind of got the ones that like are good enough, you just don't. I just don't bother even clicking on them anymore. For now. So, yeah, I get you. I feel the same way.
I was thinking like maybe the only logic is okay. Well, I was thinking originally like these are the super powered elites, right? Like they're going to be the big ones. So prepare, get your potions up, get ready, you click it, and then this monster comes in, but it's just like another elite. Like it's not, I thought it was like, okay, let's not kill hardcores by you kill one in a big pack, and then suddenly the big one comes and you're dealing with the other one, and now you just get GG'd, so it's so hard. But that's not what it is. They're just like another elite. Like I haven't noticed them being any stronger than any other monster we fought. That's what I've noticed. I heard that there were these big powerful ones, but it's like, it's just another elite. So maybe I'm wrong and they are way stronger. Granted, I am playing World Tier 1 because of massive skill issues, and maybe later on they're a big problem. But right now it's like okay, it's a +1 elite.
But they're not. They do have like an extra attack. I don't know if you've noticed that they have this little extra like orange. They shoot these extra orange balls. That's about it. Otherwise, they melt just like regular elites. So, yeah, you're totally right on this one. Like, Darth is. They're just, I don't know, man. The actual mechanic here is I don't get it, man. I don't understand. There's one more big negative thing, and so there's a bug. Well, it's not really a bug. It's more of a design problem. When you finish the campaign, you get this bag, and in the bag is a recipe to craft the Invoker of Varshan. But it's like a white item, right? Like it looks like a garbage trash. And it goes on the ground when you open the bag. And a lot of players are just not picking it up. And if you don't pick it up and you just like leave, then it disappears and you can never get it again, and you can never fight Varshan ever again. And you're like, your character's ability to fight Varshan is effectively bricked.
You can't get another one?
Nope.
Lamau?
Oh,
That's
well,
awful.
you might be able to make another character. I haven't tried this yet, but you might be able to make another character, level them all the way through the seasonal campaign, and then mule it over, maybe. But like, is that really a
No.
solution? Like,
Right.
Oh, this kind of really, really weird design.
so yeah, I think that
That's a good
just
call out.
that's my big negatives is all the waiting and the lack of difficulty and the actual mechanic, you know. Oh, I had one more negative. Sorry. The invokers. I don't know how I'm supposed to spend these things. I got hundreds of these things. And if you go in a malignant tunnel, you can spend them one malignant tunnel at a time. Like you have to complete the whole malignant tunnel. And along the way, you're like collecting more invokers. So like you just get infinite invoke. I don't get it. I don't get the resource of the invokers. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me either.
May I also ask to it here the question? When you are going to crafting to the table, you can craft the invoker, you can craft the hat. How it's called when you're crafting the bag, guys? When you don't know which exactly will drop for you. The name of the bag doesn't matter. But it seems like crafting just the hats, it's cheaper. And what is the point of crafting invokers there specifically if after that you will have to go also to the tunnel when you can already get the hearts immediately?
I'm glad you say that because I was wondering if I was misunderstanding how that worked. Like I was looking, I was like, I'm just going to make the thing because I don't want to go do the other thing. I'm just going to make the one right now. I mean, who cares? It's a gamble. You just keep making the RNG ones and try to get the ones that don't suck. And so be it. So I have no idea. I can't answer that question because I don't get it either.
Yeah, because I was thinking that maybe I'm missing something in terms of the chances. Maybe if you're creating the invoker and then go into the tunnel and then go doing through all of this, maybe you have the higher chances to get the raffle one actually, or no, or it's all no one knows basically.
Yeah, I'm pretty much what Darth said.
No idea. Echo, have
Who
you figured
knows?
this out? Who knows?
No,
Okay. We are just going there. We're just staying there. Guys, so far from what I see, just it feels like we're really missing the PTR, but okay. Because we haven't tested again anything, because we haven't seen, we saw only those hearts on paper, kinda. Right now, already like the season started, and just now we're starting actually feeling the hearts. The heart's actually really, really interesting in many, many ways. Have you already figured out for the necromancer who will probably survive one day, who will go to tier 3, what is your ultimate goal for the necromancer? What is your ultimate goal for rogue? And we have also Echo, the ultimate necromancer here. For which build you want as a world tier 2, as a world rank 2 necromancer player? Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good hearts, and it's actually hard to decide, particularly for Necromancer. From what I hear, just kind of asking around, Necromancer seems to have the best hearts overall. So, the first one that I call out is, I think it's called Sacrilegious. It automatically casts any of your corpse skills, and let me be specific what that actually means because it's way stronger than that sounds. So first of all, if you have skeletons on your bar, it will automatically re-raise them from the dead. So you always have full skeletons, just as long as you have corpses around. And you never have to cast it. Second of all, if you have corpse tendrils on your bar, it will cast it once every 3 seconds, regardless of your normal cooldown. So you just get like once every 3 second corpse tendrils in addition to your regular corpse tendrils. So you still get to cast your regular corpse tendrils on top of this, by the way, which is nutty. And then once every second, it'll also cast Corpse Explosion, which is obviously good for lots and lots of Necromancer builds that want to cast Corpse Explosion a lot. And that will, again, it's like its own like internal cooldown So you can like cast Corpse Explosion on top of it if you just want to like really belt out the corpses. So that's that heart feels like auto include for every necromancer. It's so good, and you get it at like level 5. You know, like you can have it at level 5. It's just so strong. Then you have another really strong one, which is automatic decrepify in a small radius around your character. Now, what's really interesting about this one, and we thought this one was actually really bad, because in the patch notes it says you have to have 5 enemies around you in order for it to activate, right? Which is, you know, obviously really bad in like boss situations and that sort of thing. But actually, as you level up on the world tiers and you get better and better ones, that requirement goes down and down and down to the point where it goes all the way down to 0. And you can literally just have automatic decrepify up all the time without even having decrepify in your bar. And it interacts with the decrepify upgrades, right? So you can have like aberrant decrepify with all the cooldowns and all that kind of jazz. So that's really, really good. And then you can have the Great Feast, which Great Feast gives you either a times 75 to, I believe, like a times 95 multiplier, just as long as you're willing to lose 5 essence a second, which is pretty easy to generate in, you know, any build. And then finally, one of the ones I'm using, now this isn't specific to the Necromancer, but it's a general one, the Barber. It takes all of the damage that and it like builds it up. If you play Diablo 3, in fact, it's you might like this one, Anna, because it's very witch doctor-y, right? It builds all the damage up and then it explodes.
Yeah.
And it multiplies the damage, right? So what's amazing about this is that it's very good for dot builds, because dot builds tend to do a lot of damage but just don't have the burst. So if you make like a dot necromancer build, or I assume like dot build for other classes as well, that and you just group the enemies up, things will just explode in a giant ball of Barber.
That's a great one. That's a really, really interesting one.
Personally, I'm the biggest fan of the Decrepify AoE. And that's because it casts a move even if it's not on your bar. Pretty much that simple. And it gives me a free ability. So I am a fan.
For Rogue. Whew.
For Rogue. So, I was kind of looking at the hearts themselves. I don't think that the hearts have, or the rogue specific hearts have as big of an impact on most of the rogue gameplay in terms of being like build shaking, I guess you could say. The trickery is actually probably one of the cooler ones, just because of the fact that rogues are are pretty squishy, and so being able to have a heart that allows you to like whenever you use a subterfuge skill, you can basically leave behind a shadow that taunts, the enemies. And like you think about it and you just think, okay, it's just gonna be some like little small taunt, and like some guy's gonna look at it and the enemy's like, yeah, I'm not gonna hit that. That's a decoy. I'm not stupid, right? But no, it's actually really, really good, where it almost taunts the entire screen. Like the shadow pops out and like all the attention goes straight to the shadow, like a real taunt, and you're just like, dang, this is actually really good. And it's not even just for regular mobs and monsters. It's actually on bosses. You can taunt bosses. It's just like, man, the bosses fall for this too. This is actually like a pretty interesting pretty interesting heart. It's not like game breaking, but it definitely allows you to kind of go in there and be like, okay, well, I have a few seconds to not get crapped on and like do some rogue stuff if need be. Then we do have the and so I actually use that in most of my builds, because it's just it makes it quite a bit easier to survive. Then we have the cluster minions. The cluster munitions, where basically we can launch stun grenades at the target, and it's a lucky hit. And anytime you see lucky hit, you kind of always cringe, just like, oh gosh, this is not gonna proc too often. But these stun grenades actually like proc quite often. What kind of threw me back about this heart though is the fact that it's labeled underneath like as a vicious heart, like an offensive heart, but they're stun grenades and they barely do any damage. So I'm like, well, what's the offensive part about this? This feels a lot more like utility than anything. But the stun grenades do help kind of with the CCs and again kind of helps, keeps you alive there. The Vow heart is the super heart for the rogue, and basically you have a anywhere between a 5 to 15% chance to proc all your imbues onto a target, and it's not lucky, it's an actual chance, so that's pretty cool. And depending on your build, that could either be like kind of nice to have or something that you almost don't even like realize that you're doing. And so for a super heart, that tends to be more on towards the weaker side. I am actually using it on my barrage rogue, but it's more of a niche case scenario that would not work for a lot of other rogue builds. But speaking of the barber, super hard. That's the one that people kind of is talking about the most, because this actually changes the way that you approach some of your builds, because it's just the design of it is like super cool, and it enables builds that aren't able to farm or clear content as effectively with an option to do so. Rapid fire is something that comes to mind for rogue when you use the barber, because it's like, well, rapid fire has trouble kind of clearing big packs, and with the barber though, you can just kind of just sink all your single target damages into one mob, and then all of a sudden you just blow them up in an area. And so now rapid fire actually has decent AoE, and that's kind of awesome. Whereas before you'd be like kind of struggling through the content there. So I kind of see that happening a lot on the rogues. But the one thing that I about the barber and rogue is that the bow builds especially kind of get hurt by the barber, with the fact that Umbrus is basically considered best in slot for rogue when it comes to getting a free Dark Shroud shadows and not having it on your bar, but it relies on you critting to gain shadows. And so what happens with the barber is that the barber like absorbs your crits. So because it absorbs your crits, you can't use the Umbrus aspect, because you would never get the proc, because the hearts are now critting and you're not critting anymore technically. So that's a big conflict.
That's interesting.
So it's a big conflict with bow rogues right now, because it's like, because someone in my chat was telling me, it's like, hey, I'm following your build on Maxroll, it's super fun, but my Umbrus is not working, and I have it on, and I'm like, well, what do you mean? All you gotta do is just crit and you have it. And he's like, yeah, but I have it on, have a 63%er, and I haven't seen his shroud in like 20 minutes. So I'm like, okay, there's no way mathematically that could work out like whatsoever. And so we figured out
but
that
it turns out
the heart. It turns out it was the barber that was preventing him from like seeing any shrouds. And so I put it on. I was like, man, wow, this is I don't know if it's a bug, but I mean logically it makes sense, because you're not critting, the heart is, so logically I guess it makes sense, but that feels awful. So there's a conflict for bow rogues, especially because Umbrus is very important. So but yeah, but as far as rogue is concerned, like I said, trickery is very nice for most builds. Barber is going to be used for a lot of builds, especially melee builds who don't care about the Umbrus. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of really it. The other ones were kind of like lukewarm for rogue.
Guys, I'm just freaking, I'm playing a druid this season, and I'm freakingly so far having fun with discovering them. I am really raging that they are still going in the inventory. They don't have their own tab. There are too many of them, and I don't know what to do with them, and their salvaging also really weird. But just how they go, how you're using them, I do like it. And no, so far, I'm just having a lot of fun with the druid and with the druid hats. But, so professionals, Come on, teach me. During the years of playing Diablo games, I'm constantly I was constantly hearing playing Diablo 3 that the seasonal themes are not enough. That the seasonals should be bigger. That the seasonal theme should be something, whatever is happening in Diablo 3 season, it's always not enough. Now we have our first season in Diablo 4. Is it enough? The seasonal theme, you think it's enough, or it was supposed to be, I don't know, 3 times more, 2 times more, something you were expecting more?
Nothing's ever enough, Anna. Like it's not that I'm defending the lack of content. It's that that's literally the answer. No matter what they provide, we will absorb the content quicker than they can create it. So they have to have some sort of looping content that we can go and replay over and over. And once the content starts looping, then it becomes repetitive and boring. It is an impossible problem. I have covered 15 different games in the last 5 years. This same complaint is in every single game I've ever talked about.
Whew, okay, thank you.
That's a very good answer. I mean, I have an answer, but I'm kind of embarrassed to even say what my answer is because this answer is so freaking good. But I agree with what he said. With that, but in a more straightforward sense, too, is that like with this season coming out so soon, like so early, right? I mean, most games usually of this nature don't have a season until like 6, 7, 8 months down the line. We got our first in like a month and a half, kind of thing. So like, I wasn't really expecting season 1 to have or to be massive, just because I mean, like, how much time did they really have to create this alongside of everything they had to do with the launch of the game? So I always kind of expect the season 1 to kind of be not as massive, but season 2, forward will be significantly more involving, because there's going to be a lot more time where they can just focus on just the seasonal stuff itself versus launching the game, making sure that it doesn't, crash and burn at launch, which is always, very important. So, but that's my take. And what
Echo,
Dark said.
you're still alive?
Yeah, just hit 98.
Oh, baby.
Nice, man.
What a grind.
Whoa.
I guess my take here is two things. One, this season has shown us basically Blizzard's idea of what they want to do with a season, right? Like just sort of like the broad strokes of the paintbrush, so to speak, right? They want to have a story. They want to make a character to tell a story. They want you to do a campaign. They want to have a season mechanic that's available from level 1, right? Not like the season mechanic doesn't start at level 70, right? They want it available immediately. They want you to interact with that immediately and feel a sense of progression through the season mechanic. They want to have big new bosses. Sort of like all of these things are the things that in my mind ultimately make their way into the core game and make the core game better, right? So like Varshan, for example, I can totally see that boss becoming just like a regular boss that they put into various dungeons, because there's like, what is it, 6 or 7 different bosses across 120 dungeons. So like I think that could use a little bit of mixing up. And then we have these powers, right? Like people have already mentioned, like, man, that auto cast of Corpse Explosion, that's really cool, and I never want to go back to playing a Necromancer without it. Okay, well, what if that was an aspect that they make in a future season, or a unique, or a change to the skill tree, right? Like, you can definitely see like their vision for the future of the game through the season itself, and I think that's that insight that we've gained now is pretty cool, and I think really encouraging for like the future of the game if you're looking forward to that. But of course, what DM said is totally correct, right? Like folks who are gonna blast the game are gonna burn through the content really, really fast. And if you are not the kind of player that enjoys, repetitive content where you're like min-maxing and that sort of thing, then you're gonna get bored really quickly. Just like any game, right?
On this, I have, what recently really, really surprised me? You remember before, like 2 weeks before season 1 started, actually, I think either Joe Shelley or Joseph Pipe or someone said on Twitter, I think, they said something like, guys, now there are 2 weeks before season 1, go play another game. Or go chill, go relax, go play another game. It's incredibly surprised me, just because it's weird to hear something like this from a game developer. You're developing a game and you're kind of saying, I am allowing you not that, but you're anyway saying that, yeah, this is okay to play another game, or this is okay to go chill, just chill, prepare for the season. And this is, for me, it seems like it's showing kind of different approach to the industry. Also, that developers are becoming more human, so to say, and also accepting the existence of the other games and accepting the existence of this world. How did you feel? Have you noticed this phrase, or how did you feel about this? Can game developers say something like this?
Yeah. Like, okay, so I have a very basic take on this, which is that the only reason people are surprised they said that is because they're expecting corporate speak and PR talk. And why would a company be honest like that? Like, yo,
Exactly.
If you get bored, play another game, right? Why? But then at the same time, that's what everyone wants, is cut the bullshit. Just be honest. Tell us what you think. Like, that's what people want. So when they do stuff like that, why would I be mad about it? Like, I want to know what they're thinking, so I know if I want to invest my time and money into a game. Sorry about the cat. She's having a rough one
She's
today.
amazing.
But so when they say that, I feel like they're going to get flamed no matter what. Like, if they say that people are being like, oh, well, they're not committed to their game, they're saying to leave the game. But it's like, didn't PoE devs say the same thing? And everyone was like, wow, the honesty,
Yeah, basically what DM said too as well, and also just an approach of just letting the audience know that that Blizzard's not trying to capture your attention 100% of the time, and that like making sure that that the game is really not an MMO where you feel like you have to play it all the time, or you have to log in on like a daily basis. And people were kind of getting a little antsy about the fact that since Diablo 4 is open has an open world aspect, that people are just tying it directly, oh, well, it's an MMO. And it's like, well, no, it's not an MMO, type thing. So I also feel like a statement like that is kind of tied to it too as well, where it's just kind of like, that there is finite progression, right? And they want to make that clear, there is finite progression. So there will be a point where you do everything and you can't really, there's no more progression. At that point, you can just go outside or, play a different game or whatnot. And so they want to make that point clear. And I think especially for those who come from other games, or even just Diablo 3 itself, the infinite progression scaling was a massive problem in certain ways. So to actually hear that, even just from like playing Diablo 3, was almost kind of like a relief, almost, where it's kind of like okay, so botting won't be as people are still gonna bot, don't get me wrong, but the advantages of botting is being curbed a little bit when there's no infinite progression or as much of a reason to do so.
Yes.
But so yeah, but like DM said, I'm not really too surprised that they kind of had the take that they did, and I like the fact that they were honest about it. It's like, yeah, once you do, man, go play a different game. Come back when we have more fresh content. And in reality, that's kind of how it really should be. That's how it should be enjoyed. Play it, have fun, do what you need to do. Get to a certain point, you feel like you did everything you could, put it away, come back to the next season. So
this is
I think,
so surprising.
I think Joe's message to the community is maybe actually to the larger gaming community, not necessarily Diablo community, right? Because we can get in our ARPG echo chamber all day and say, well, okay, yeah, like, sure. But actually, what I've found, I've been asking a lot of people, like, what lifestyle game do you normally play, right? Like, a lot of people have, like, their game, like, whether it's, like, Apex or The Division or Destiny or whatever, Minecraft, you know. And I found that there's a lot of Destiny 2 and Division players playing Diablo, which is, I guess, like, maybe shouldn't be surprising, but, like, was pretty surprising to me that, like, FPS style folks who like the, like, sort of like the white mechanics and that sort of thing of Division, were coming to an ARPG and really enjoying it, and then being surprised when things were different than their game, because they've never played a Diablo game before, right? And so
Echo,
I think
if
that
I
message.
If
Yeah.
I may, I today just saw on Twitter the comments that Elon Musk is playing Diablo 4. I don't know
Yeah.
the sign of what is this, but it is just really, really cool. Absolutely. It seems like everyone is playing Diablo 4.
Yeah, it's I keep saying it's the biggest game in the world right now, but you know, I think that's a matter of opinion. But yeah, I think that just goes to show, you know, even interesting people like Elon are playing this game right now. So the player base is wide, and the typical player that you might normally envision that is like your PoE hardcore, you know, Alva Temple grinding person, right, is maybe not the like normal player that you're going to be encountering in the game, as opposed to, you know, just a dad gamer who plays Destiny 2 on the weekends.
I can imagine. It's so, guys, coming from the Diablo world, I was always saying to my chat also, this is so weird that our relatively small Diablo community now, that, yeah, absolutely everyone is playing Diablo 4, and you see all the memes, and you see all the also really famous people who are gathered, who are also playing this game, and this is so amazing that community is growing, that the community is so big.
Makes sense. I mean, this is probably the most marketed game I've seen outside of Raid Shadow Legends.
Did you like Megan Fox?
He's not wrong.
Who doesn't like
He's
Megan
not-
Fox?
Yes, I know. This is Diablo marketing team. Come on. This is absolutely, there are insane people. That is really, really cool. Guys, I'm don't want to torture you too much. I have one ultimate question for you. We are always, during all of those podcasts, I'm always was making my guests to play the game. You are the game developer. We have right now the patch coming. We had 2 patches that are dropped and absolutely crushed my PC. But anyway, you imagine, Echo, I was already asking you this, but maybe you, during those 2 days, you also came to something else. You figured, now you see that you need to also something else. What would you add? What do you want to add? What do you think it's a must? What should be there?
Are you asking Echo in particular, or you want?
No. I'm asking everyone. Sorry, guys. Just we talked already with Echo about this. That's why, like, I'm just saying that maybe Echo wanna. Maybe now he has some different idea. Maybe now he played hardcore almost till level 100. Now he understood, but actually 80 plus, there should be something else. But yeah, guys, if you also have,
let's hear Echo's answer first.
I guess there's a lot of different ways you can approach the question. So my day job, I am a dev, so I know I know a little bit how the sauce is made, right? It's kind of a small thing, but one thing I'd really like to see more. So this might be difficult to explain. So this is a live service game, right? And because it's a live service game, the way that they actually roll the patches out is I mean, I don't know the actual architecture that they're using, but I have a good guess based on how it rolls out. Is that basically every single zone or area of the game is its own little container or compute, and all of those have to get basically recycled. So they have to like destroy the container and then apply a new container. There's a bunch of different technologies that do this. Probably one of the most popular ones right now is called Kubernetes. But what's tough about that is that you end up with these kind of long but quote unquote zero downtime deployments of a patch, right? So you can do things like have 14 hot fixes before you do a big major patch, like they did between launch and the current patch that we're on, right? And they even deployed a patch yesterday, right? But that comes at the cost of this like constant recycling of instances, and I think it a lot of times results in like, you know, this you see this thing on the Battle.net launcher that's like, hey, you know, we're having maintenance, you might get disconnected or something like that, right? I think it'd be a lot better for players to have like better insight into like what's actually going on, as opposed to just like a little banner on the Battle.net launcher, so that they can make a decision about how they want to spend their game time.
But the majority of players...
That's what I would change. That's what I would change. Better communication about how they roll out patches. Because like if it's you know, if I don't know, not everybody works a 9 to 5 Monday, Friday, right? And it's a Wednesday and that's your game day. And you know, they're like, hey, for the next 5 hours we're rolling out this patch.
And you will
you might not like that very much. As opposed to, you know, the way they do it in other games, like WoW, for example, is like, you know, every Tuesday is Patch Tuesday, and server's going to go down and that sort of thing. But I think more transparency around that and how they roll that out from like their operations team and their operations perspective, I think would be really cool. I know that's like a really super nerdy answer, but that's my answer.
I'm kind of happy. I understand lags are bad. I feel it. But I'm at the same time kind of happy that they're not completely... The servers are not going down for maintenance for 2 hours. That you still, maybe you are lagging. But currently I'm on European server. I was okay with whatever maintenance was happening. I was okay. I wasn't like completely unable to play. So, at least we are not completely going down. Guys, what would you add? What would you add immediately?
So I'll take a stab at it. I think if we look at the game, we can very obviously see that there's one major change in Diablo 4 over Diablo 3, which is the focus on an overworld. I think the primary addition to this game, more than likely, is the one big world aspect. However, we've been focused majorly on actually getting people out of the overworld and into individualized instances, which to me seems counterproductive. So if it was me personally and I was developing the game, I would be focusing on what I think makes Diablo 4 great. And I would be making the overworld events better. I'd be adding more obos so you can target farm whatever items you actually want. I'd be doing experience significantly better. I would be adding an actual world chat for whatever instanced world you're in, so you can talk to the people that are actually in the same overworld instance you are in. I would add some kind of gold-based auction house, because I don't understand a reason for us to have trading in the game but have no reason to actually meet the people that do the trading. I would obviously fix all of the horse issues. There's tons of horse issues. It's an overworld, but getting around the overworld feels horrible. I would add more stash tabs in order to fix that quality of life as well. I would add more gym improvements so that there's reasons to actually pick up the gyms and continue to use them. There's a million obvious things we can go down the list and change, but if I had to add like, this is the biggest... One?
Yeah.
Overworld map buffs. Overworld map buffs. It's an overworld, which is awesome. It's the reason I like the game more than the other Diablo games. Buff the overworld. Like, make it a reason to do something outside of an instance.
Yeah, I feel actually a lot the same way that Darth does. I think every time I see like patch notes, when it's like we buff Nightmare Dungeons to do this, you buff Nightmare Dungeons to do that. Nightmare Dungeons can also do this. Nightmare Dungeons can also raise your credit score. Nightmare Dungeons can, it's just like, oh god, all right. So like we're now just like getting funneled into doing one in-game activity when before it used to be, well, I wasn't used to be, but like there was reasons to enjoy other content, like for instance, I remember back before the game launched, like every in-game activity had a reason to do it. Like before, these shadow prisms were not necessarily, they didn't just normally just drop. They only dropped from world bosses at one point, and so that gave you a reason to do world bosses. So like, okay, well, this is going to help me be able to add sockets to my gear. I can target this thing by doing world bosses, and then Helltide was Forgotten Souls. Well, now that's starting to be able to drop just by salvaging, weapons and whatever, or ancient weapons and things. And so now it's like, well, now I have less of a reason to do Helltide. So like, it's like getting funneled into one particular part of a, content when it's supposed to be an open world adventure, go play, go do whatever you want to do. Just kind of just feels very, conflicting, I guess, in a sense. But if I had to pick one thing that I would change, it's just quality of life. Like adding things that should already have been, or what we feel as a player base, or what the player base feels should already be in the game. Like it's hard to look at Diablo 2 and Diablo 3 and look back at features and things that were already there, but stripped away in D4. And yeah, granted, it's different games. I get it, different teams and stuff like that. But the general audience isn't looking at that. They're just looking at, well, in D3 I was able to do this, or in D2 I was able to do this, and why can't I do it in D4? It doesn't make any sense. You look at the Oculus and you re-roll an item, and well, how come I can't see all the affixes for the said items like I could in Diablo 3? Like it just seems like a step backwards. So like at the moment, if I had to choose something like to add or to do, or stash space and just gems and whatnot, having their own gem bag and things like that, like these are things that just feels like Diablo 4 being such a modern action RPG game just feels like those things are like we're going backwards on a lot of those features that should just be normal. It should just already been there. So I think quality of life, in my opinion, it would be the thing that I would focus on like right now. Like get the quality of life, make the game feel better to play, to farm, to do, etc. So
inventory fix the hot
Yeah,
somewhere from the
Wait, how about you, Anna? You can't get away from this question. What would you add into the game now? Wait, you're asking us all the hard questions. Let's turn it around here. What are you going to add?
Search bar in the stash.
Amen.
I recently saw the ultimate question, everyone, and right now, after the last campfire, I saw people were pissed that they are giving us, they gave us only one stash tab, what is this? Why not giving us 10? And I was also asking myself all the time, okay, why, give us more? And I saw from Joseph Pipora, I saw actual explanation that, my gosh, at least I can live with this. He said that each time when you see a player in the open world, the game is loading completely this player and loading his stash tabs. So it's causing, and in the end it's causing the overheating. Guys, I don't know. You can comment on this, but at least I can live with this explanation.
I don't get it. I'm not a dev. Echo Hack's gonna have a better take on this than I will, but I don't understand why it's the average person's problem that when they log into a game and see some person, which there's no social systems to interact with literally anyway, they have to worry about loading that person's stash tab. Like, it's not our problem. I don't actually care about their answer at all about it. It's like, okay, well, you have a bad way of loading other people's stashes. Give me stash tabs. I don't care.
I am still going with the search bar. Search bar in a stash right now for me is prior. But you see, look, this is the other... this is the other side of the coin. The developers are becoming more human. Developers are explaining. They're trying to explain, okay, we have this issue. Okay, that's why we can't fix it right now. But now you're saying that, but I don't care, just fix it. if you want the developers be more humanly, then you will also have this kinda.
So a couple things. So first of all, Anna, I think there's actually really good news for your search thing. So I don't know if you noticed, but if you go search aspects on the occultist, previously you had this checkbox that said only for my class, and now you have a drop down with a filter with 2 checkboxes.
Cool.
Which says,
yeah, I saw.
Which says my class and seasonal.
Yay!
Right?
Whoa.
Yeah,
But
that was.
I mean, that seems like a small thing, but that kind of gives
is
me
healthy.
insight into what they're trying to do. So like, if they just, I know it sounds like really easy for them to just add like a, fuzzy search type in words field at the top of the stash, but a lot of people play this game on console, or they play controller on PC, or they play with like an accessibility device on PC, and it's one of their main goals to like make the game accessible to everybody, right? So when they come up with a solution to this problem of searching, it has to work, I think, for everybody. And so this like search, this checkbox that they have, I think might be like the way that they would implement something like that. Is like, that's something that a controller could very easily use and just from like a UI perspective, right? And so I think there's a challenge there that they have to overcome. And then what else? Oh, about loading the other players' inventories. Obviously, I like don't like know their underlying architecture, right? Like I haven't like seen their code base or anything. I can posit a guess. I can play armchair developer, right? Is that like when you have like something like a Docker container, you need to load into memory, like into RAM, the actual like player object, right? And the player itself, like what is a player, right? This by the way, this question gets really deep into like game development and design and like how systems like that work. But anyway, like it gets really philosophical at some point, where you're like, okay, well, what is part of the player? Well, is the player's inventory part of the player? Is the player's health part of the player? Is the player's stash part of the player? Is the fact that the player has transmogs on part of the player, right? And eventually you start doing weird things where like, oh, enemies are also players, and doors are players, and everything is a player. Like it gets really wonky, right? So that's just like how like game dev is works sometimes. Like you might be familiar with the very funny example. I think it was Silent Hill 2, where they had to have like oh no, it was sorry, Half-Life 2, where they couldn't figure out how to make the train go, right? So they just took an NPC and built a hat that was the train, and the NPC moves, right? So the train is actually a character that moves, right? So like you get a lot of like weird stuff like this in game dev that happens all the time, and it gets really wonky, which might explain, this, otherwise bizarre sounding idea that like your stash is loading when another player like enters the same instance as you, right? But like, yeah, to DM's point, right? Like this isn't like the player's problem to solve. This is like an engineering problem. And I think maybe that's what Joe was trying to say, is like, this isn't like he's trying to empathize with the people that are on his team, right? There's a bunch of engineers that have to go and do a whole bunch of performance testing and like measure nanoseconds of like how fast things load and on all these things just to make this stash tab happen, right?
I'll say that I quite appreciate the transparency of him going into the actual technical reason of why it's an issue, and stuff like that helps the faith. Like, I'm even reading my chat, and when we brought that up, like, obviously I am of the opinion where I try to be like fairly reasonable about stuff. Some stuff I just don't care about the answer. It's like, well, I'm a player, like I'm just not going to worry about the engineering side of it. But I know this from the people in the chat, when a lot of people said already, when he's like, I actually really appreciate that they told us what's going on. So you can see the responses there. So I would rather them say,
That's me.
I'd rather them say why there's an issue than just be quiet about it and have us all assume. Because on the last time I talked with my buddies, we had our own podcast and we were talking about, people were guessing like, okay, well, they're going to try to sell them in the future or something. Like, people's mind will run when you don't know actually what's going on. So sometimes knowing, even if the answer is unsatisfying, is better. So it's going to be an unsatisfying answer. People like me are going to be like, well, that's not my problem. I don't care. Give me a stash tab anyway. But I would still rather know than not know. So props where props are due.
I also think too that they did take a while before they answered it, right? Like, or to give an answer, because I mean, how many times have the player base has, asking why can't we just have more stash tabs, and like they would kind of just detour the topic, that's like, oh well, we're working on it, it's coming, we just don't have a ETA, like they've always kind of sidestepped the answer all the time. And so like I think over time, when people keep asking over and over and we don't ever get an answer or anything other than just a sidestep, even getting the actual answer, just still feels kind of a little bit like I'm gonna say late per se, but at this point I think people just don't care anymore, because like it just sounds like you just don't want to give a stash tabs, even though that may not be the truth. Like, obviously that's not the truth, but you sidestepped it so much to the point where we just kind of just feel like, oh, you just don't want to give it to us now. And now whatever answer you give now is just going to sound like, just a cover up in a sense, versus kind of just saying that at the start, where it's like, well, this is the reason why this is at the start. But
there was one interesting point that I saw. It was actually a Reddit comment. I'd pass it off to Echo to guess whether or not you think this has some truth to it. But sometimes they don't talk about these technical problems because there could be vulnerabilities around them, where it's like, hey, the reason that they don't have stash tabs is because it's tied to the player's inventory. Well, that might cue the people to think there's a way to duplicate the items. Or like people were talking about why there's a dungeon teleport and why it's 2 seconds longer. And someone left a comment like, well, there could be some kind of potential like vulnerability issue related to the characters and the technical side of things that they're trying not to talk about, and they can't give the technical reason as to why they did that because it could potentially be an issue. I don't know how much validity there is to any of that, but I thought it was an interesting point.
Guys, then I will drop. I'm sorry, but one more. I said this one will be the last, but one more. I came up with this now, listening to you. We all know about the quality of life, a lot of quality of life we all want. How do you think actually the game right now, like, after playing it, after seeing all of those quality of life changes that we want, and they're working on them, guys, would you prefer them to release the game like later but fixing things before? Or do you think that the game was released in a correct time? Or it would be better if they would still work on it?
I think it was released fine. I'm not saying that there wasn't issues on release. There obviously were. I would rather the game to actually be released and I can get my hands on it, decide what those issues are, and see what it is like and play it. I feel like if we move the goalpost on, oh, you should have done this and released a layer, you should have done this layer, when they move the goalpost on us and we get mad about it, it's kind of the same thing. Like, I don't actually have an issue with a game being released in 100% not a completely perfect state, because you're never going to get that. Like, a game, it's a live service game. It's an ever evolving product. This isn't Super Nintendo anymore, where they ship in a box and you plug it in and it's done. Like, it's going to be changing. It's a multiplayer game. It is what it is. Like, I'm not mauling about that one. I'm fine with it.
so I'm probably on the other end of that equation, because of the fact that like Blizzard was a company that we all hated the whole soon TM, and that became a meme on its own, because it's just like, oh well, that means it's gonna take forever. But you also knew that you were getting quality, and it's gonna be good. So yeah, it's gonna be a wait, but it's gonna be good. And so I think being part of a gamer that's played Blizzard games all the time. That's just kind of what you would expect from Blizzard, is just that polish that other games and other industries just simply just did not have, and or just didn't live up to. Now, of course, obviously there's red tape and there's higher ups, and it's like, we need to release this game at this window because holiday seasons and money and stuff like that. And the devs don't have any control over that. Obviously, they gotta do what they have to do to meet the deadline that the higher ups set for them. But I mean, I've always been under the camp of just like, when it's like, release it when it's done, kind of thing. Like, I want the product to be as in good a shape as possible, like when I play. And I personally don't mind the wait. I know others may agree or may disagree with that, but I rather like play it in a as best of a state as possible that the devs kind of intended, because that's just what I'm used to from, old days of Blizzard. Whether that's obvious the Warcraft 3, StarCraft series, stuff. You just like that polish that you expect. So now Diablo 4, when it released, I mean, definitely one of the better launches that Blizzard has had in a very long time. So kudos to that. But you can definitely tell there was aspects of the game that is definitely unfinished. Like you can even tell, like even that there's supposed to be a more robust crafting system. Like we have all these different crafting mats, right? That we don't do anything with. Like, like there's so many different ones, and like what do we do with the crafting materials? As if there's supposed to be more, they just didn't have time to put in the game because, well, they have to hit the release date kind of thing. So, but I just prefer just a as much of a completed product as possible, just because it's a Blizzard game, and that's kind of what I've come to expect. And I would rather see that over than kind of just push it out the door, we'll fix it later approach. But I can understand both sides of the equation.
Echo, what would you do? Would you wait?
Yeah.
Would you drop it?
For me, I approach this problem like kind of as a dev, and so I guess the first thing I'd say is that this might surprise some people, but the game industry actually lags behind the tech industry quite a lot from a tech perspective, right? They tend to be quite far behind in terms of like what the tech industry is doing. So what Blizzard is really doing with D4 is an idea called continuous delivery, where you're continuously making new versions of the product. And so when you're making a product, any software product, it could be a game, could be a website, could be anything. The biggest risk to your game or your website or your thing is not that you have bugs or that things are broken. It's that you made the wrong thing. That's the biggest risk. And so the best way to mitigate making the wrong thing is to get the thing in front of your customer as soon as you can, right? And that's what they've really done with Diablo 4 from the very outset, right? They had the closed beta, they had this like press preview, they had multiple betas, a server slam, early access. They have tiptoed their way and made multiple releases of the game before even launch in order to get this product into their customers' hands early and often, so that they could get feedback, and so that they could also do all their own internal testing and see what was actually working and not working and make the product better, right? So I would say I'm really happy with how it launched. I'm really happy with how early they launched it, regardless of some of the rough edges or the like spikiness that maybe some people are feeling in regards to like nerfs or bugs or whatever. I think the bad stuff that otherwise could have happened is that they could have built a game that nobody wanted to play. They could have built, just another bad, poor launch or poor game with the wrong features that were targeted at the wrong audience, right? And but because they got it in front of their fans, their biggest fans. Like closed beta was specifically targeted at people who had played a significant number of hours in previous Diablo games, right? They specifically targeted this feedback, right? Because they did this, it made the game at launch significantly better. It made the product significantly better. And I think because they are in this, they've architected the game such that it is continuously delivered, they can make these adjustments, you know, for a game development time perspective relatively quickly, right? Where we get things like, to give you like a prescient example, right? The map reveal and Altars of Lilith progression on the season. That's something that they didn't have ready, and they got that to us like really fast, like from a game development timeline perspective. We got that. Those kinds of features would not be possible with a different kind of like game development philosophy. So I'm super happy about it.
I want the Altars of Lilith to be changed every season, but no one is supporting me. You all don't understand anything, I must say. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. It was absolutely a pleasure. If you want to also add something, if you want to drop something, if you feel right now like, oh, wait a second, I actually wanted to say here this about this game, then drop it. If not, I will send you to hell.
You guys go first. Anything? Anyone? Bueller? Bueller?
I mean, I guess I'll talk you up a little bit here, DM. I've been talking to DM for a little while now, and he's just had some meteoric success with the game. If you guys aren't following Darth Microtransaction on Twitch, on YouTube, Twitter, you know, whatever it is, wherever you get your Diablo
right,
information.
money's delivered. I sent the PayPal. It's there. Check your PayPal.
He's amazingly wholesome. He'll tell you how it is. He's a no BS kind of guy. Go check him out.
Oh, well, I appreciate that, my dude. That's very nice.
Yeah, we noticed. Darth. Everywhere. On YouTube, on Twitch, on Twitter, we noticed.
And about 1 million Asmongold videos. I know it is a little bit of a shocker. I'm not gonna lie to you. Kind of didn't see it coming, but it is what it is. So here we are, boys. Well, I'll go. I had a question for you guys, which is that after we all did the beta testing, we all did the early access, or at least I would assume we all did, and we've been playing the game a lot before it actually came out, right? As have a lot of people. So my question for you is, now that it's out, we're in season 1. Here we are. Is it what you expect? Over, under? Like, is it better than you expected? Worse than you expected? And if I need to go first to answer, I will. But that's my question. I'm curious about all three of you. If you feel like it's better or worse than you expected.
That's tough, actually. I would say it's actually better than what I was expecting. Considering some of the issues definitely in the beta parts of the game, especially in game. And of course, I know we kind of still can't really talk much about the in game stuff. But like, it's just coming from that, there was a lot of worries. I'm just like, ooh, this is a bit rough. Are they going to be able to smooth these things out? It was almost one of those things where it's just like they might have to just do a complete philosophy rehaul of how the in-game stuff actually worked, giving the state of it at the time. So I'm actually pretty impressed that they actually kind of pull it together to make it, while obviously not a perfect experience, but fun. Like, it's, on the surface, the game is a lot of fun to play, despite the small issues that the game has or whatever like that. Like, I log in and I generally like killing things. I generally like doing most of the content. Like, I'm not just here where it's just like, okay, well, now I'm a content creator, I have to play D4 now because that's a transition from D3 to D4. No, I actually thoroughly enjoy actually playing the game. So I say they definitely pull it off in a way to where I am having a lot of fun with the game, even if I reach a state that I can't progress anymore, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, better than what I was expecting, considering the betas.
It's a pretty good answer. How about you, Echo? And then I want to hear Anna's take too.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned the horse earlier, DM.
I know what you're gonna say.
You think the horse is bad now?
Oh, you have no idea.
I know exactly where that's coming from.
Oh my god!
Horse is
You
perfect.
have no idea.
Horse is perfect right now.
Oh my god!
Everything is
yeah.
fine with the horse.
Compared to where
Yeah.
the horse was, the horse right now is it's a Tesla, right? It is a Porsche. It is a McLaren.
Yes.
Okay, and they saved the horse. And nobody will believe me, but oh wow, was it bad?
We will.
Oh my god, was it bad? So my expectations were exceeded, not like by a lot, right? But they were exceeded, and they saved the horse, right? You can trust me. You could not use the horse. You would never use the horse. The horse was a bad idea, and now you do use the horse. Is the horse like the best thing ever? No, but you use it, and I think, and that's just one example of the entire game, right? There was a lot of those things that they cleared up.
Can't stop laughing because when you mentioned the horse, I'm like, oh my god, man! Like, it was such a meme for all of us. Every time there was just new like information about what their horse did or did not do, having to freaking chase the horse as it was coming by you and you couldn't get on. Like, I mean, it was just so much wrong with the horse, man.
Can we all agree, at least, that if you're using the space bar, you should be able to blast through the barricades and have it be super satisfying, where you can, like, during the charge, it destroys the barricades, and give us some dopamine drop of that. I would love that.
Horse is great, I must say. Now horse is great. Everything is fine with the horse. Because I remember this nightmare, and guys, my personal for me personally, I am also surprised. The game exceeded my expectations, definitely. Because what I noticed this month, already the second month, the game is released the second month, after playing in the previous betas, I had my concerns. I saw the horse, I saw the different small things it was so weird. It was so weird. And actually, I didn't believe that they can, in the end, somehow polish things. I believe we played the game, during the previous betas, whatever. The game was there. But they just polished things. They changed them, they twisted them, but now it's a fun experience. It's fun to the point where, I guess, guys, you can also rely on this. When you're playing or streaming 8-10 hours, then you're also doing YouTube videos, then you're also doing some content about this game. You're in your free time. You are rarely will go to the same game, or you will try to, watch Netflix. You will try to do something else. With this game, already 2 months we're in, I am playing it in my free time. I don't have to. No, I mean, like, it's a free time after all, but I'm anyway playing it because it's fun, because it's cool, because it's somehow really, really something that's growing on you, something that you want to do. At least for me.
All right, and I guess it's fair enough I give my take then. You guys all answered the question, honestly. So I gave it a 7 out of 10, was my review of the game in the early access build that we had taken advantage of there. And I feel like that holds fairly true, But I'm going to give my copium take, which is there's some things that went greater and there's some things that went under. So for me, the greater was the early game and the story. I actually thought the story was like really fun and good. Personally, I actually really liked the early game. Honestly, I think it's good, and I don't understand the takes of people like that don't like the early levels. Honestly,
I
I
also
just
don't get it. I
think
so
it's
don't get it.
I think it's very. I think 1 to 50 is one of the most enjoyable experiences I've had from Diablo games. Granted, I've only played halfway of D2, and D3 I played a lot, and I haven't played D1, so I'm only coping my way through those. I'm assuming, okay, but I actually think the early game's pretty good. The end game that I didn't really get to experience is probably under my 7/10 rating, and I think most people might end up agreeing the end game wasn't as polished as we were hoping. Still fun. We're obviously all still playing the game. The quality of life was under for me because I actually kind of expected the quality of life to be a little bit better, and it was hard to get the quality of life, like understand the quality of life features until you've actually been in the game long enough, so we didn't really focus on the quality of life. But now that they're starting to come out with patches and address it, I feel like it's going to end up, and give it 3 to 6 months, it's going to end up an 8 out of 10. I would say I started at a 7, I stayed pretty firmly right around my 7. I think the story in early game is like an 8, and I'd probably drop the in-game and quality of life to like a 6. So I think it's a little bit of a cheesy answer I'm on both sides of the coin here, but on some things I think it's better, and some things I think it's worse than I originally anticipated.
Pretty much. Guys, it's so great to be a casual player. You're playing around level 70, 80. You don't have any issues with the end game. All the problems are starting after level 80. It's becoming repetitive, really, really repetitive content. Because you're doing pretty much nightmare dungeons all the time. Before that, everything is fine. Guys, thank you so much. Really, really gigantic thank you. Thank you for joining. Hopefully we didn't kill Echoshak. I am wishing you amazing evening. Day, sorry. Damn it. For you it's day. I'm wishing you amazing day. And yeah, we are professional podcast. We have the ending phrase. Now, go back to hell. Go blast.
Well, thank you for the invite. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks
so
for having
much.
me. This was fun.
Thanks for having me on, Anna.
Thank you. Have fun, guys.
Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.
Peace.